I call to your oath level.
Tēnā koe, Mr. Speaker. Kia ora tātou katoa I tēnei ahi ahi. Mr. Speaker, probably interesting to be talking about holidays amendment while we have two members away from the House at this point in time. But compared to the other employment bill that's being tabled today, this bill is relatively straightforward and non-contentious. But there are some fishhooks in it which I'm hoping the Select Committee process will pull up. The key option in this paper to exchange the fourth week of leave for cash has received a significant amount of media space in the last few weeks, sir. Basically, the bill proposes to amend the Holidays Act, allowing employees and employers to agree to the employer paying out up to 1 week of an employee's minimum entitlement to annual holidays at the employee's request. I state that for those who perhaps joining into and listening into the debate, having started the debate some time ago. Mr. Speaker, there's an important rider in this, that the maximum entitlement that can be applied for is 1 week, and it is just a request. Employers may have a policy that the employer does not have to consider the employee's request. They are expected but not required to consult employees in developing such a policy, and they also have to advise any potential new employees of the policy before they accept an offer in employment. So it's good to see written into the bill too that employers are not allowed to encourage or pressure their workers to cash up holidays. It's entirely up to the employee to initiate. So it's an option, might be available to some, and it is not intended to coerce employers to sign up to something that they might never agree to. But I guess, sir, the key issue when thinking about to pay out or not all comes back to this whole notion about work-life balance. Work-life balance is different for each and every one of us. And I'll hasten to guess that many of the people who inhabit the parliamentary complex, it's a concept which sounds nice on paper but is almost impossible to achieve. But what all the research tells us is that there is a consistent demand for greater workplace flexibility in order that employees can balance their roles in the paid workforce with other commitments and responsibilities. And what other research tells us is that when it comes to those other responsibilities, namely perhaps caring for our dependents and older family members, Māori are very highly represented in the group of carers, of the volunteers who provide the fuel to keep our communities afloat. Mr. Speaker, the demanding and never relenting call to meet one's obligations and responsibilities has come at a considerable cost. In 2008, in a study conducted by Fiona Te Momo, she reports on the work life for Māori academic women, noting the rise in cultural responsibilities for this group. She says, and I quote, "Māori women colleagues frequently describe being so overcome with work responsibilities that they are unable to balance their lives. They continue to place one foot behind the other to move forward in order to survive in academic life." End of quote. And so we will be particularly looking to hear from Māori women, from Māori workers, from whānau, from the runanga of Māori unionists, to know whether this bill will have a positive effect in terms of providing workers with genuine choice about the way they work, enabling better work balance between time and energy they commit to paid work and other responsibilities. Mr. Speaker, I think that Parliament has to be concerned that a significant portion of the total workforce are working 50 hours plus per week. We know that too, that employees in particular industries and occupations are at greater risk of working longer hours, and again that Māori are overrepresented in the group most at risk of working long hours without a break. And so it does come back to the fundamental question of the role of work in the midst of all of the other activities that one fits into one day, such as community activities, caring for others, let alone leisure. It makes plain sense that any initiative which can help staff to have a better work-life balance will reap rewards not just for whānau, who can see each other far more frequently than at a dawn or dusk, but it can also help businesses increase productivity, address skill shortages and retain staff. So, sir, will it benefit Māori? Potentially, yes. Being able to choose to cash in a week's holiday might just help to ease the financial pressure, either to take the lump sum for a full week at one time or spreading it out and making more than one request during the entitlement year. It might therefore help to contribute to the everyday survival of whānau. But there are some other hooks which need to be scrutinised carefully at the Select Committee stage, sir. As a result of this bill, employers and employees will be able to agree to transfer the observance of public holidays to another identified working day. Now, that might work for many of our special days that whānau observe throughout the motu, days of particular tribal significance that whānau members often have to take annual leave for. But there would be a question in my mind about the power dynamics in the relationship between the employers and the employee. For instance, could it be foreseen that an employer might exert pressure on a workforce to force them not to observe a Waitangi Day as a day of national significance? Mr. Speaker, I'm sure I read in the small print of the bill that when it comes down to a dispute, if agreement can't be reached, employers will be able to decide when an alternative holiday will be taken. And that is an issue I hope is taken up with vengeance at the Select Committee stage. So the other issue that we hope to see clarified is that employers are now able to request proof of sickness or injury within 3 consecutive days of an employee taking sick leave. The employer will have to cover the employee's reasonable costs in obtaining this proof, such as to pay for the doctor, but we do have some questions around how this will impact on the goodwill between the employer and the employee. Mr. Speaker, at this stage, however, the Māori Party will enable this bill to be exposed to the rigour of public scrutiny, and we look forward to the debate that may well happen as it moves through the various stages. Kia ora tātou.
I call Lynn Pillay.
It will come as no surprise that we in Labour are opposed to this bill. And can I say this is another week of shame again for the national government.